Hey everyone, it's Opal Marigold here to bring you guys a video on how to make your own DIY self care box. And I've been really wanting to do this video for a long time. I've been planning to do this video for months, but I've just been postponing actually doing the video. So I'm happy to actually sit down and share with you guys this beautiful self-care technique that I personally do in my own self-care practice, and I feel like could help others, and maybe you might want to implement it into your self-care practice. So to start off, I feel like we should all ask ourselves, what does self-care mean to us, and what is self-care as a whole? Self-care is when you intentionally take out time to care for your emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual aspects of your being. So your holistic self. Self-care is a beautiful technique, and it's a beautiful way to tune into more optimal health, and to tune into more productivity, to tune into a better version of yourself, because it enables you to utilize your energy in the most profound ways. When you care for yourself, you're more energetic because you're actually replenishing your energy, and you're replenishing your vessel, and you're pouring into your spirit. So that's why I feel like self-care is a beautiful technique, is because it really does allow you to really understand that you as a being matter, and if you were not at your optimal health, then things around you are going to be affected by that. So when you take time to nurture your being, when you take time to care for yourself, when you take time to soothe yourself, replenish your energy, then it really does help you live a more fulfilling life, because you, the life force that brings forth life outside of yourself, is healthy, is energized, is the battery level is powered up to its highest. So yes, we might have times where our self-care practice might be suffering from our procrastination and laziness, or we might not be really putting enough energy into our self-care practice. But when we do put energy into our self-care practice, we will receive those things back. We will receive that calm energy. We will feel less stress in stressful situations. We will feel less pressured by day-to-day stresses, because we have a way to relieve that stress, and we have a way to understand and reflect on the aspects of our life. It just gives you time to pretty much look at yourself and care for yourself. Look at yourself and say, self, you matter. Look at yourself and say, self, I love you, and this is what I'm going to do for you. Just like we care for other people around us by making sure that they eat, by making sure that they get to where they need to go, by doing things for them and nurturing them, we can also do that for ourselves. If we don't really nurture ourselves, it's really going to be hard for us to understand how to nurture others around us, because it first starts from within. Like, look at the man in the mirror, just like Michael Jackson said. So that's pretty much what self-care is, and why self-care is such an important practice to include within your daily life. So now the next question that I know you guys probably all have is, what is a self-care box? Okay, well, a self-care box is a box filled with items that can help calm and replenish your energies. Like I said, self-care is a really good way to calm and replenish yourself. That's really what self-care is. It's replenishing your energies. It's filling up your vessel. It's taking care of everything that you need to be a stable being in this present state. So yes, the self-care box, you're going to have items in there that help you do that help you calm and replenish your energies, that help you tune into your life force and strengthen your life force. Those things are going to be within your box that really allow you to do what you need to do to, like I said, be working at your optimal level, be working at your optimal health, and be whole overall. So also, a self-care box is a place where you can just keep the items that you utilize for self-care. So whatever that may be for you, whether it be painting items because you enjoy some paint, whether it's your notebook because you enjoy a journal as a form of self-care, whether it be headphones because you love to listen to music, whether it be whatever it is that you include into your self-care box that correlates to your self-care practice that you do, hopefully on a regular basis. Alright, so I also want to speak to you guys before we get into the self-care box of what I personally think about the self-care box. Now, I feel like these are points that I feel like everyone will be able to relate to as pluses and pros to creating a self-care box. And first pro to creating a self-care box is the simple fact that a self-care box is something that is personalized for your own self-care regimen. So everyone has different ways to do self-care. Everyone has different goals and activities activities that they use for self-care. And what someone else uses for self-care might not be what really helps you for yourself. It might not help you keep yourself stressed, or it might not help you boost your energy, or it might not help calm you down like it does someone else. So having a self-care box that you DIY and make on your own, you actually put things in there that you created or that you found around the house that you can easily come into and that are readily available to you. Not only, like I said, is personalized to your individual self-care regimen, but also is really great because you really don't have to go out and go buy things. You already have a lot of things that you probably didn't even realize you can use for self-care in your house, just laying around that you didn't even know could correlate to self-care, that you didn't even know you could add into your box or make or create that could be self-care to you. So it really helps you sort of tap into like practical self-care and efficient self-care, because you don't correlate self-care to spending $500 on a luxurious spa. I'm not saying that that's not part of self-care, but on a regular practical basis, we have to have ways that we can tune into self-care that are practical, because we're not going to be able to go on a $500 luxurious spa every day. So having something practical and having something that you can have readily available, like I said, right in front of you is really great. And creating the self-care box is an act of self-love in itself. When you create the self-care box for yourself, you're saying to yourself, I love you. So I'm going to take out this time to create this self-care box and put things in here that I know will nurture you, and I know will help you, and I know will give you that hug when you need it, give you that love when you need it the most. And so it's like it helps you tune into limitless ways to nurture your being through creating and utilizing this self-care box. So let's get into it. So what you need to create your DIY self-care box is a box, and for what to put inside, you can literally just put anything inside. If you already sort of have a self-care practice that you already do, and you already sort of know some stuff and ideas, and you have ideas about what you want to include in your self-care box, then go ahead and include those things in your self-care box. But I wanted to inspire those of you who might not have a set in stone self-care practice, or might just be looking for other ways to self-care, other new ways to self-care. I have a method that I utilize on my own for deciding what I wanted to include in the self-care box. So this method that I am utilizing is called the self-soothing technique, and the self-soothing technique comes from this therapy called the dialectical or the dialectical therapy. The dialectical behavioral therapy. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly, and it comes from it's like a subset of a broader spectrum of therapy called the cognitive behavioral therapy. And what this behavioral therapy consists of is the therapist will give the client innovative skills that they can utilize to assist with difficult emotions, and it also helps lessen relationship drama, because of course if we understand how to deal with emotions better, they're going to relieve strain from our relationships, because relationships have a lot of emotions tied to them. That's human nature. So what the self-soothing technique consists of in itself is that you use and awaken and stimulate the five senses as a way to ground your energy, and as a way to keep you in the present moment when you're in an overwhelming emotion, or you just want to soothe yourself, or you just want to sort of take a vacation away from like all the stresses that surround you. And as you do that, you come back into a grounded state, because you're smelling, or you're tasting, or you're touching, or you're hearing, or you're feeling, and you're grounding yourself in the present moment. You're remembering that you're a physical being, and then you're also allowing yourself to be soothed by these methods that are just relaxing and soothing in themselves. Like, so that's sort of what the self-soothing technique consists of. And the self-soothing technique might not work the same way that they have as like a structured method of the way it works for this particular group of people who they've done it on. It might work different from you, but I found that personally the self-soothing technique works for me and my self-care regimen, and works for me in deciding what to have in my self-care box. So I feel like that's a method that I can share with you guys, and hopefully it works for you guys as well. Alright, so we all know the five senses, which are touch, taste, smell, sound, and sight. And I don't know why I always, like, every time I say the five senses, I always, like, forget one sense to say. I don't know why I always do that. Like, do you guys do it? If you do, like, comment I do in the comment section, because I literally feel like that's, like, an extreme personal problem, and I really don't know if anyone does it as well. But if you do, like, comment that you do, so I don't feel like I'm, like, so alone as, like, the only person that always forgets to mention the last sense when they're talking about the five senses. So the five senses, like I said, as we know, are taste, touch, smell, sound, and sight. And the five senses are what we're going to utilize for, again, for the self-soothing method. And the first sense that I want to talk about personally, and that I feel like is a great method of self-care, is touch. Touch your body is the largest, or not your body, your skin is the largest organ in your body, on your body, and your skin is also very, very, very stimulated by external, like, touch and feel. So I feel like touch is just a great way to soothe yourself. You can massage yourself and things of that to soothe yourself, but we're talking about what we're going to include in the DIY Self Care Box. So the first thing that I decided to include in my DIY Self Care Box for the self-soothing method for touch is crystals. And as you guys know, I love crystals, and I tune into myself being a crystal healer for myself and as well as others, but I'm still learning about crystal healing and all that, the things that consist of crystal healing. But I do classify myself as a crystal healer because I feel like I have a great relationship with crystals. I have a great relationship with their energy. I have a great relationship with the things that they're teaching me and awakening me to see. So I decided to include a couple crystals, and one of the first crystals that I decided to include is a unakite jasper. And a unakite jasper is good for a lot of things, but what I like to use it for is to relieve emotional distresses. And that's why I included it in my self-care box, because sometimes, you will tune into self-care when you are going through a very emotional time, or you're feeling heightened emotions. Maybe it's near the full moon, maybe you just had a bad day, maybe you're just feeling very emotional, and you're just like, okay, like, I need something to soothe myself. I need something maybe to connect with my emotions. I need something to understand my emotions. So utilizing the unakite jasper. So the next crystal that I have in my self-care box is a pink helenite. And a pink helenite is really good for tuning into self-love and also tuning into cleansing your environments. Pink helenite and helenites in general are great for cleansing your environment, which is a really important part of tuning into self-care, is cleansing and purifying and releasing any distresses that you have. And also, having a self-care box is a part of self-care as a whole. Having a self-care box is a part of self-love as a whole. So tuning into pink helenite and tuning into a deeper sense of self-love is awesome. So that's why I have pink helenite in my self-care box for touch and also for crystal healing. The next crystal that I have in my self-care box is rhodonite. And rhodonite is another, like, emotional healer. And for me, like, I like to include a lot of crystals that tune into emotional healing aspects, because I really do have a big emotional body. So, like, I deal with a lot of emotional distresses throughout my regular day life. So just me having crystals in my self-care box and having crystals on me that help me stay emotionally stabilized and understand my emotions is very important. So rhodonite is a very good, it's like the A1 emotional healer. It's really good for just purifying the heart in general. It purifies out anger, it purifies out resentment, it purifies out fear, and it just allows you to tune into a deeper sense of love for yourself and of others too. It helps you have empathy for yourself and understanding of yourself and empathy for others and understanding of others, which is really important overall in life. So the next crystal that I have in my self-care box is a rose quartz. And yes, I know, again, with the emotional body and the heart chakra. So, like, when you think of a crystal that correlates to the heart chakra, rose quartz. Rose quartz is very good for grounding your heart chakra, grounding your love center. It's really good for tuning into intimacy. And I feel like self-care is a form of self-intimacy. Like, you're being intimate with yourself. You're giving yourself that nurturing and that care, just like how you'd be intimate with someone else and give them that nurturing and care. It helps healing your heart, another healing stone for your heart, and it also helps with contentment. And that's really important with self-care, is being content within yourself and finding peace within yourself. So that's why I included rose quartz in my self-care DIY box for touch. So the next, last but not least, crystal I included in my DIY self-care box is citrine. So citrine is a beautiful crystal when you want to tune into your joy center, and I believe that's really, really important for people who deal with depression, is tuning into their joy center and finding happiness. People that deal with depression sometimes have a hard time finding that level of happiness. And citrine also helps you find your inner light and tune into your inner light as well, which is important. Finding your inner realm of happiness, tuning to the things that make you happiness within, or just being happiness. This citrine will help you tune into that aspect. So that's why I included citrine in my DIY self-care box for touch. So now that I'm done mentioning all the amazing crystals that I included in the self-care box and all their amazing healing properties, I feel like including crystals in your DIY self-care box is really, really important, and it's like amazing thing to have in your DIY self-care box, is because like you can keep these within your DIY self-care box, and if you don't have like a really big piece, or you get a tumble stone, they don't take up a lot of room, and you can tune into the healing properties and meditate with the crystal. If you're dealing with like a lot of like depressive energy, then meditating with the citrine will help you tune into your joy center, or whatever the case may be. So having crystals, like I said, having crystals in your DIY self-care box is like really like a great thing to include within your DIY self-care box if you do tune into crystals as a healing method, and the crystals sort of connect with you, and you can feel their healing energy. So the next touch item that I include in my DIY self-care box for the touch portion of the self-soothing method is fluffy socks. So fluffy socks are such a great thing to include in a DIY self-care box, and I bet you have some fluffy socks laying around, because right now it's like cold outside. It's December if you're in the northern hemisphere, and you know, having some fluffy socks, you know, to get comfy with and to warm your feet with is very comforting. And the simple fact that our feet have chakras, and our feet are directly connected to the earth, and we have a deep connection. We can deeply connect with the earth through our feet. The skin is one of the largest organs, is the largest organ in the body, and it's just very stimulated by sensory, like feeling and touching. So, you know, having the fluffy socks on your feet and having fluffiness out, like being a symbolism of like comfort, and when people have something fluffy on, they like have that comfort, and it's fluffy and it has like that sensory comforting effect. And so that's why I included that in my DIY self-care box for touch. So the next thing that I include in the DIY self-care box for touch is another fluffy item, and it's a blanket, a fluffy blanket. And you know, after a long day of you just like doing shit, and just like you want to come home, you want to get into your self-care practice, you want to take care of yourself, you want to nurture yourself, you want to just relax and release and distress, like cuddling up with a comfy blanket is just like so like nice. Like being able to just cuddle up with a comfy blanket, watching a good movie, or like eat some good food, or just like read a good book, it just like makes you feel again that comfort, like energy of fluff. So that's why I included the blanket in my DIY self-care kit. So the last but not least thing is stress balls. So stress balls are awesome because you don't just touch them, you can play with them as you touch them. And like if you have like stress balls that like, you know, you can look into, like these I can look into, so it's sort of like distraction too. Like say I'm going through like a moment of just like extreme stress, and I'm like, okay, I just need something to like distract myself from these overwhelming feelings, so I can come back into my grounding center, which is the whole like purpose of having the self-soothing method again. And you can like look at like, and I'll show you guys like close up, like you can sort of like see like the reflection like through it, and you can play with it too, so it's like also distracting, you can play with it. And this sort of bridges like the sound and And this sort of bridges, well, not sort of, it does. It bridges the sound and the touch, like, together, the sound and the touch part of your five senses, because it also makes a sound too, and it has a little like chimey sort of sound that you can hear, and that chimey sound can be somewhat soothing, like, and you just like roll it and you hear the chime, and you just like roll it in your hand and you can feel it, and it's just like, oh, and you can look at it to distract you too. So it's like, it's sort of like sight, sound, and feel all in one, which is like awesome, especially if you're a minimalist and you like things that have like three purposes in one. So yeah, that's why I included the stress ball. And stress balls, like, they're known to help relieve stress. That's what they're called, stress balls, like, duh. And so just rolling it around and like distracting yourself from your overwhelming emotions so you can ground your energy again, and just like also relieving your stress that you feel, like, side portion of the self-soothing method within the self-care box is a couple things, because I'm a very visual person, like I said. And what I decided to include is pictures from my childhood. And you know, when you're a child, life is just, it seems simpler. When I was a child, it was a very happy time for me. You know what I mean? I didn't have people over my ear telling me to do stuff every 5 seconds because they thought that's what equated to responsibility to me. I could play and I could enjoy myself and I could tune into my creativity endlessly without people in my ear all day. So this is why I decided to include the pictures of myself as a child in my self-care box, because in the end, when we're a child, it's just a simpler time. And I have like pictures of me when I was little, being happy. There's pictures of me here looking all cute and happy and smiley and joyful, because I don't have to work a 9 to 5 all day and come home stressed as fuck. So yeah, that's why I decided to include visuals of me as a child, because, you know, when you're a child, it's just overall simpler time. Sometimes people don't get to have that childhood, so take advantage of your childhood and never lose your inner child. So the next thing I decided to include in the visual sight portion of the self-soothing box is a book. And this book is about feeling good. It's the Feeling Good book, The New Mood Therapy. It's by David D. Burns, and it's a really good book and helps you sort of like it sort of like gives you like therapeutic methods for you to do on your own to heighten your mood and to better your mood. And you know, that's so important when you can treat yourself and heal yourself, because we all have an inner healer within us. So, you know, having this feel good book and having methods of having therapeutic methods that can actually help you heighten your mood. Sometimes you might come to your self-care box when your mood is not the best. So having this book in your arsenal, in your self-care arsenal, is amazing and great. And it's, again, Feeling Good, the New Mood Therapy by David D. Burns. So check it out. I bought it at Barnes & Noble last year, and it was a good buy for me. So I decided to include another book too, and some of you guys might remember this book from you guys' childhood, and I like to include like childhood books in my self-care, my DIY self-care box, especially when like I just need to like escape and not have to like read a book that is like extremely analytical, where like I'm just like already like in like my mentality is not stabilized, so like trying to read something that's like analytical, like it will make me more anxious. So having sort of like a book that can help you escape, a nonfiction book, a sci-fi book where you can just sort of go to another world and like go to another realm and just like have a moment where you can just like relieve yourself from mundane reality and go to a more mystical, probably more enjoyable reality in some instances. But we do co-create our reality, so. Alright, so the next part of the DIY self-care box, the next sense I wanted to talk about is taste. So what I decided to include in my self-care box for taste will include 2 organic dandelion root tea bags, because tea is very relaxing to me, and when I drink tea and I drink any hot beverage, I feel relaxed, I feel soothed. Feeling the warm beverage go down my mouth and go down my throat is just very soothing. But you know, taste, I just want to talk about one aspect of taste. I know when we think of taste and we think of self-care and all those aspects of caring and nurturing, what comes up in our heads is probably comfort food. Now, while it's probably really great in the moment to go out and buy a bunch of junk food to comfort you and to make you feel better in that moment, over time that's going to have a negative effect on you, obviously, because junk food is not good for you. And yes, we're not always going to eat healthy every day all the time. Sometimes we have times where we cheat and we eat a chocolate cake, okay. But at the same time, if we're going to choose comfort foods and we're talking about self-care and we're talking about being at our optimal health, we want to choose comfort foods that can still comfort us but are also healthy as well. So I don't really have a paper or something to show you here, but I know that I want to include, and I haven't put them in my self-care box yet, but I want to include like printed out recipes or written out recipes that I can do for my self-care regimen and practice, and as well as just because self-care and taste and eating is very important part of health. Sometimes we forget to eat when we're really busy. So having like a couple recipes in your self-care kit to be like, hey, remember to eat, like, you know what I mean? And having them be simple and easy, but also healthy is very important. And you know, eating something nurturing is going to nurture your whole self. Your gut is actually considered your second brain. Your gut and your brain are connected through a line of neurons. So what you are sort of what you eat. So, you know, when you eat something that's actually healthy for you and it's actually nurturing you, it's going to go to your brain. It's going to like probably release endorphins and make you happy. You know how you have a good, healthy meal and it just makes you happy. It makes you feel fulfilled. It makes you just feel like, like that was satisfying. So, you know, with comfort food and with the taste portion of the self-soothing box, please try to include things that are actually healthy and are actually going to lead to longevity, because in the end, that is a part of self-care. So the next portion of the self-care box, the next sense that I wanted to do is smell. And I am a sucker for aromatherapy. I love aromatherapy. Aromatherapy is a very well-known, recognized, respected form of therapy in the therapeutic realm. Or rosemary essential oil, and this rosemary essential oil actually came in another container, and I forgot the brand that I got it from actually, but I ended up just like pouring it out of the actual big, because it was actually like a big bottle like this big, and I couldn't really carry that around. And I wanted to be able to carry the rosemary oil around with me, because rosemary helps to relieve anxiety, it helps to relieve stress, and it also helps with memory. And I sometimes have a really bad memory, and me having a bad memory is directly tied to me experiencing anxiety. When I can't remember things, I get very anxious. So I like to have rosemary oil around me to rub on my nose so I can like just have better memory and relieve my stress and relieve my anxiety. So that's why that's what I chose for my smell portion of the self-soothing portion of the DIY self-care box. You can include other things for smell. You can include a smell that invokes a very happy memory for you. It could be from your childhood. It could be from recently. You could include any sort of smell, essential oil, a spray that you like, you know, just think of smells that you enjoy and just bring you that relaxation and bring you that form of comfort and bring you that form of nurturing that you want to have within your self-care box. So yeah, and some essential oils, I'm just going to give you ideas of some essential oils that you can include. So if you want to sort of have the calm yourself down, like with your self-care method, and or just like you're in a place where you're like feeling very distressed and you want to calm yourself, having lavender is a very calming essential oil to have. It relaxes you, it calms you, it brings a state of just like peace. It brings a state of peace over you. And if you want to invigorate yourself, then you could choose something more like a lemon or orange juice. Will just invigorate you, give you that form of power and that enthusiastic, zestful energy that you may want to bring forth in your space. Like say you just had a a long day and you sort of want to invigorate yourself, you want to re-energize yourself, you want to replenish your life force, having an orange and lemon essential oil will do that. So what I included for the sound portion of the self-soothing method of the DIY Self Care Box is, of course, headphones. And when you have your self-care DIY box, you don't even have to have headphones in your box. You can have other forms of sound. You can have chimes in your box. You can have the tidy tambours in your box. You can have any type of sound method, even a triangle like in your box. Any type of sound that can be created readily available to you that soothes you and helps you relax and helps replenish your energies and helps revitalize you. You can include that in your self-care box. I decided to include headphones because it is efficient for me. I can carry these headphones with me anywhere. I feel like it's also really great to have a separate pair of headphones in your box if you do include headphones for your sound portion of the self-soothing method within your DIY self-care box, because it's really easy for us to lose headphones. Most of us lose our headphones probably about 3 times a year. We have to go get new ones. So having a separate pair of headphones for your self-care box is really good. So if you are really in a stressful moment, you want to tune into that sound therapy, you have it readily available right there in front of you, and you don't have to go on searching for your headphones and then be more stressful because you're going on searching for your headphones. So I decided to include headphones, and like I said, you can include any other sound method that helps you. You can even have a playlist that you have, the name of a playlist that you have written down that you can quickly go to on Spotify, quickly go to on SoundCloud. You can create a playlist that's meant for relaxing you, that's meant for encouraging you, that's meant for motivating you, that's meant for replenishing you. Whatever you need for your self-care practice at the moment in time, you can make a playlist for that. So there's many ways that you can include sound in the self-soothing portion of your DIY self-care kit. Like I said, I decided to include headphones, and when I put these headphones in and I'm tuning into sound therapy, I'm just tuning out everything around me. I'm just listening to the music, and it's just soothing. So I decided to include a couple journals, and with journals that you include in your DIY self-care box, you can decorate the front of them with what you're going to utilize the journal with what topics that you might write within your journal. You might use your journal as a way to release your emotions and write them down so you can let go of them. You might use your journal as a way of reflecting and looking at your progress and taking note of your progress by reading over what you've written and understanding how you're growing in your self-care practice or in other areas of your life. You can use a journal for pretty much anything. You write in it, and just including that in your self-care box is, I feel really great, because journals they're very helpful for self-development overall. I find that me utilizing a journal and me writing in a journal has helped me develop myself and has helped me overall. So that's why I included a journal within my DIY self-care box. So I decided to include some paints and a canvas, and I didn't show the paintbrushes in here, but I do have paintbrushes. Again, I love to paint. I do classify myself as a painter, and painting is a soothing method for me. It's a relaxing method for me. It allows me to express myself in ways that maybe words can't express, and so that's why I decided to include a canvas and a couple paints. That most of the paints that I included correlate to the 7 chakras, because I just wanted to be cute with that. But yeah, I just decided to include paints and a canvas because painting is just a great method for me for a lot of different reasons, and one of those methods is self-care. So another thing that I decided to include in the DIY self-care box is, this is actually a DIY project in itself. And this is what I was really excited to show you guys. So right here I have a bunch of pieces of paper that I printed out from online, actually on Pinterest, and it came from lists of self-care activities to do. So I printed them out from several lists, and I will actually include the link in the description box to the list. Maybe, I don't know if it would be a lot to actually include the whole, like, the several lists that I use to find them, but if you literally type up self-care lists into Pinterest, you will find these exact same lists that I cut them out. And I cut them all out and put them in a baggie, and you just shake them up and mix them up. And if you want to tune into self-care or do a self-care regimen, and again, you don't know where to start, you can just pick one self-care routine out of the bag and do that do that self-care method that you picked out of the bag, and it's literally that simple. So print off a list of self-care methods, cut them out into strips that you can throw in a bag, shape the bag up so they're all distorted, and you can pick whatever probability you want, and then pick out of it and do the self-care routine or do the self-care activity that was given to you. And there's different types of self-care activities that I included in here. It's self-care activities that are practical, that are spiritual more so, that are physical, that are mental, that are emotional, and all in between all of that. So that's what I really was excited to show you guys, because this is such a simple DIY thing that you can include in your self-care box and can help you evolve and strengthen your self-care practice. So another thing that I decided to include in the self-care DIY self-care box was some Black history cards about women. And I was really excited to include these in my DIY self-care kit, because being a Black woman and living in a society where I am considered a marginalized being and I am discriminated against on a regular basis, which is sad but a true fact within this American society, having Black history cards that are pertaining to women help encourage me and help motivate me and help show me that even though the road can be tough for a marginalized being, that I still matter and that I still am important, and that all these women made strides and all these women had to struggle way more than me to get where they are currently. So if they can struggle to do that, then I can struggle to do it too. And the struggle lives on, and I won't stop until I make it to my version and my individualistic idea of the top. So that's why I decided to include the Black history cards about women in my DIY self-care box. And this Black history cards on women actually come from urbanintellectuals.com. If you want to go on there, you can find them, and you can probably buy them if you are interested in that. So yeah. And I also decided to include a painted fan that I painted. And the reason why I decided to include this in my self-care box is because I deal with anger management issues, and I've been dealing with these issues for a while. So having a fan to fan me down when I'm feeling hot-tempered helps me. And I know that might sound a little odd, but when I get angry, I feel literally hot. So like having something that can cool me down, and having a form of air that I can breathe in and breathe out and just fan myself, it just gives me this like calming energy and this calming vibe. And it might also be because my sun sign is an air element. I'm a Libra. Maybe just having the air element wash over me feels like cleansing to my own personal energy. But either way, that's why I decided to include this painted fan that I painted in my self-care box. And I know that might be an odd thing to include, but you can include anything in your self-care box. It doesn't have to be cliche self-care things. It can be whatever correlates to self-care to you. So this is the end of my DIY self-care box video, and I'm really happy that I got to bring this video to you guys, because this is the video that I've been planning on doing for so long, and I'm so happy that I got to share this information with you guys, share this self-care technique, and I hope that you guys can use this self-care technique in your own self-care regimen, in your own self-care practice, because right now a self-care box, a DIY self-care box, is much needed. It's the holiday seasons. For those who celebrate the holidays, it's a very stressful time. Ecliptic season is coming up, as well as a full moon in Cancer is coming up about next Friday. So I know that self-care and caring for ourselves and taking time to nurture our being and taking time to slow down and release our stress and replenish our energies is on the menu right now energetically. So take the time to care for yourself. Like Eleanor Brown said, she said that you cannot feed from empty vessels. So make sure that your vessel is not empty. Make sure that